Um, Jay-Z, is like in my mind, and I know I'm biased. Jay-Z is like the greatest rapper of all time because I'm biased. I'll just say that.
Okay.
But it did raise the question for me, um, and I know we've talked about this a little bit, but I think about the Chris Rock movie every time I say it. But like, who's your top five, Salim? Like, who's the top five MCs in your mind? Um,
Okay.
I think we talked about it, and every time I have this conversation, I'm like, the doc has to have a system for things. So it's my greatest strength and greatest weakness. It's got to be categorized in some way. So we talked about, and correct me if I'm wrong. Remind me. I think we talked about flow, lyrics, and then is it longevity or cultural impact? Because the two things are different.
Yeah. I think you can
Which one?
include. I think you can include both, but there are people that were short bursts of life, but that's still like when you listen to it 20 some odd years later, you're like, yo, that motherfucker was ahead of his time or ahead of her time. So they still have a long lasting hold on hip hop. You can't tell the story of rap and hip hop
Right.
without these people, even if they were one album, two album, or just a quick, blur in time.
Cool. So, who goes first? Who's gonna do the big reveal of top five? You want to go first? Should I go first?
No, I'll go first, man. I think you're kind of
Go ahead.
scared. I think you're scared. You're probably gonna have your say, but I don't think we're gonna be too far off. We don't think we're gonna be too far off. I wish we had a top 10. It would be easier, but
Oh
five
yeah.
makes it a little bit tougher. But I guess at five for me, five for me, and just because he is the father of the style that we came up in, and is still considered like the style of rap that needs to kind of push forward, is Rakim. Rakim is fine,
Rakim
and
Allah.
Rakim Allah, although that's blasphemous as hell, but yeah, Rakim.
I feel you. Charlemagne says Charlemagne the God, so like,
Yeah,
yeah,
well, he's
yeah,
a clown.
completely
He's
blasphemous.
not Rakim. Rakim, like, for real painful. That came out in '87, right? And Eric B for President came out in '86. So even here in DC, where we're go-go country, Rakim was our first like rap star that made sense. I mean, because before him, you had Curtis Blow, you had Run DMC. They were all fun rappers, and it was all cool and happy. But Rakim just had like a grown version of rap that was like, yo, this shit is dope. The beats are crazy. The lyrics were ahead of its time, and it still holds true.
And his flow was different. He had a different
flow
flow.
was different, and
Rhyme scheme, everything.
everybody had to like kind of had to change their game up because of him. So, and he was probably 18, 19 years old when he started rocking like that.
Right.
Okay, so Rakim is 5 for me. 4 for me.
Oh, you going in order? Okay.
Yeah, 4 for me because of what he meant to the switch from East Coast to West Coast, and it was like I never knew a West Coast dude could rap like that and still have like the ability to storytell about a part of the country I had no idea about. Ice Cube. Ice Cube is I think wow. Ice Cube. So I think what people forget Ice Cube because of what Ice Cube has become now. Like,
sure.
And I think this last year was a rough one for him because of the what was it, the black people's promise,
the
or
platinum
something.
plan.
The platinum plan. The plan was cool and all of the decent idea, but the promotion of it as to who needed to listen to it versus who didn't need to listen to it, I think was kind of short-sighted on his part. But we'll leave that outside of the realm there. What he has grown to through Cube Vision, the Big Three, and all this other stuff, people forget the seedlings of it. So people forget people that are probably 30 something, they don't know about America's Most, Death Certificate, The Predator, which is my personal favorite Cube
Some
album.
good albums. Yeah, I
Yeah,
can't argue with the fact those are great albums. Yeah.
And then if you go to NWA,
Yeah,
the
straight out of
first album,
Compton.
yeah, straight out of Compton. When you talk about the lyrics and that shit, yo,
He was the
Cube,
best lyricist on that album for sure,
easy.
and in
He
that
was
group for sure.
18, 19 years old.
Yeah,
It was amazing with the Jerry curl.
Right, and it was transformative, right? It transformed the culture.
Yes.
Like when NWA dropped, everyone was like, "What is this?" Like no one had ever seen or done anything like that before. So it's a fair argument.
And
so
then,
you got
hey, I got Rakim and I got Cube. But what Cube did too was he was smart. He came to the East Coast with Hank Shockley and those dudes and put that bump in his bass and shit. And it was like, yo, this motherfucker's hard, you know, like
Ice Cube and the Lynch Mob, and we jacking for beats.
Yeah,
right? That's
like,
what he's.
that's
Yeah,
shit.
yeah.
I'm not no gangbanger, but I fuck with this dude.
Right. Ooh, West Side.
Yeah. And he was poignant with his lyrics.
Right.
And they were on time, especially the Predator album during the riots post Rodney King, the verdict. So he was on time with that. So that's 4. 3, and I think watching the documentary on Netflix earlier this month. I mean, it's big. Like Biggie was cool, man. Biggie was amazing for what 3 summers. When I think of '95, I think of One More Chance remix. That was like, and it was like some cool, like I don't drink, I like to party and shit, but it was like the coolest shit. This big fat mofo talking about black and ugly as ever, Coogee down to the socks, rings and watch filled with rocks. I mean, Biggie was
sick with it.
Yeah, he was sick with it. He was a 5-tool MC, and I think that we suffered in with his death because I think we missed what could have been as far as the height of his hip hop greatness. I think Jay-Z and Puffy were probably the benefactors of his demise, his early demise, in that Diddy was able to make so much money and become a mogul off of Bad Boy, which was really leaning on one guy, and that was Biggie. And then Jay-Z was just the perfect individual to move in to that void. So I think that Big is definitely on the number 3 on my list. Number 2 on mine and number 1 on yours. Sometimes it's reluctant, is Jigga. And the thing about Jigga, which is interesting, is Jigga's had so many different styles from the time we saw him at Penn Relays, when he opened up for the Fugees. It was like, oh, who is this nigga with the leather coat? Who is this cat with the staccato flow? And like, okay,
right,
he cool. He cool. Dead Presidents was dope. He cool, but how long is he gonna last?
Right.
As soon as I heard Can't Knock the Hustle, I said, yo.
Oh, ba-boom, 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 ba-boom. I can even hear the beat in my head.
Relays that open up the niggas nice. And then you start learning about Hawaiian Soul Feed from '88.
Yeah.
I'm not from New York, so I didn't know about jazz, the originator, and all that shit.
I didn't either. So, let me just say real quick that I slept on him, right? Like that first album, like I missed it. Shout out to Obadiah Davis, Edric Campbell, who tried to put me on, and I was like, nah. I was too heavily engrossed in A Tribe Called Quest and De La Soul in native tongues.
Yeah.
And he came out, and the lifestyle that he was describing on Dead Presidents was so foreign to me, a kid from the suburbs, that I couldn't really appreciate the music. And then it took me, and Jay said it. He's like, I gave you Prophecy on my first joint, and you're all lamed out. Didn't really appreciate it till the second one came out. And that's exactly what happened to me. Yeah.
And
so
Jay-Z has
Jigga number 2.
he's had some dud albums, but like for me, Hard Knock Life sucks. I really hate that album, but he's got bangers on that shit. You know,
Right. I don't know how you
I
right.
hate
Yeah.
Hard Knock Life, the album. I like
Yeah.
Hard Knock Life, the single.
Hard Knock Life might be one of my favorite albums, period. Like
A
I like
lot of people
almost
feel that
everything
way.
on there. Yeah.
That was 98. I was in a different place. I was on my
Yeah.
Gemini shit, and
That's
Jay-Z
exactly what I'm
was
saying. You gotta be like feeling the culture, right? Yeah.
yeah, but the point is, he has been able to flow through each of these years, and he's right. Every summer from '96 to about what 2009, he was relevant as fuck, and now
Still is.
and he's still relevant. He's a 50-year-old
Right.
dude that's got
Still
$1
is.
billion in his pocket, and he's
Right.
got Beyonce.
It could drop an album right now and it would
I
go
would hope
platinum.
not. I would hope
I would
not.
hope not.
Yeah, but
No, you're not. We're not calling for a Jigga album right now. We're just
we're
saying
not
we could do it. Right.
right.
Yeah.
And so my
Number
number
one.
one, I had to think about this because
I'm a little scared. Go ahead.
I didn't because of again he is similar to Jay-Z in the fact that he's done this throughout time. But when we were introduced to him at Live in the Barbecue in '91 as a 17-year-old,
Wow.
Nasir is a bad motherfucker.
I can't believe it. Like I
I
would never have thought you would put him.
trust me, you made me think this through, and I was reluctant to admit that shit. But Nas though, like you got, I mean, from Live the Barbecue to Illmatic, which is to me still one of the greatest 37 minutes of hip hop that you'll ever need to listen to.
Greatest hip hop album of all time. I'm not afraid to say it.
Yeah. And everything after that, it all depends on how you feel about shit. Because, you know, when he was on the Wu albums, Verbal Intercourse, like Nas got so much hot shit. And what I love about Nas is like Stevie Wonder of rap. He took what Slick Rick did and took it to another level as far as painting out stories. You could look at songs like Rewind and Second Childhood, and you'd be like, yo, I Gave You Power. You're like, yo, this nigga was a gun. It's like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And you know, everything after Illmatic it could have been hit or miss. You know, when he did the whole Esco, Nas Escobar, and he got no shirt with the leather jacket. It was like, okay, nigga, stop. Then he had to humble himself, you know, after the whole Uchiwali era and shit, and come back after leaving Columbia and doing the Stillmatic album.
Mm-hmm. I like Stillmatic though.
I think everything from the Stillmatic album up to now, I think Nas is kind of mellowed out, and he said, you know what? I'm just about to be about this rap shit, and I'm gonna keep it pumping. And Nas is the King's Disease joint was amazing. I know it won a Grammy, and a lot of people. I don't care about the Grammys. Fuck Grammys. They don't matter to me. But King's Disease was a dope album. It hit. It made sense. I'm 44. Nas is like 47, 48. It just made sense. We came in the same era. So those are my five. I love Black Thought. I love Fonte. I love Redman.
Yeah.
I love Face. I love Luda. I think they're all. I love 3000. I think they're all impactful in the game. But you narrowed it down to five. So those are the five I have to give you. Rakim. Who else did I say? Who's my four? Ice Cube, Biggie, Jigga, Nas. I mean, Kendrick Lamar. I love that dude. There's so many MCs that are.
It's so many great MCs. Yeah.
Oh my God.
So we got. It's 1,000. It's tens. I won't say hundreds, but it's tens of honorable mentions for sure. All right. Sure. So Biggie and Jay-Z for sure are in the top five in no particular order. I guess I would do. Jay-Z's my number one. I already said that. Yep. And it's like I'm trying to think about what order it is in now, but it's definitely Biggie, Jay-Z, not in that particular order. I'm reminded of Jay-Z and Where I'm From. He's like, I'm from where pull your card and argue all day about who's the best MCs, Biggie, Jay-Z, and
Jay-Z
Nas.
and Nas, yeah.
Where drug czars evolve and thugs are at odds and at each
Yeah.
other's throats for the love of foreign cars. But that's why Jay-Z's number one. But it also, I always think Biggie, Jay-Z, and Nas. But for me personally, Nas drops out of the top 5.
I know you don't fuck with Nas.
Right. And I don't like, and for me, like, I feel like he's a genius. Don't get me wrong. Like, I feel like he's an absolute genius, but like the genius is like almost in the way of the cultural influence, right? Like we talked about like longevity and cultural influence. I don't feel like he like captures the country's imagination and can run with it in the same way that Biggie and Jay-Z have. I think the other person who's done that, kind of a blip, but also a great storyteller, is Pac, right? And so like if Cube is your West Coast influence, right, where it's like this is relevant for the time, it's good storytelling, then Pac is mine, right? Pac is the guy for me who was like, oh wow, there's a world out there. To live and die in LA, it's the place to be. And like just the idea of like, he was the guy where hip hop was headed towards pop music, where he was like, nah, like this has to be real. Like you can't be talking about getting shot if you didn't get shot, right? And so we see how after he got shot and murdered, how the game has just been like, oh, it's completely corporate now, in a lot of ways. And he was, in my mind, like the barrier between hip hop being corporatized and it being about real storytelling. And 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 he opened up the door for other rappers who had like this different geographic affiliation, which one of them makes my list, and that is Marshall Mathers, also known as Eminem.
Eminem's in your top 5?
Eminem is in my top 5. Eminem to me,
Wow.
who can, and I'm not even a huge fan of like all his albums. Like I don't even know that I bought. Right, I don't even know that I bought his last album, but or downloaded his last album. But in terms of like lyrically, he's the only one where I've been like him. Well, forgive me, him and Tariq, Black Thought, are the only two where I was like, this is possibly unmatched by another human being. Right. So I think those are the two where it's like this is unmatched. But Tariq is the Roots. So if we had a separate category for like top 5 groups,
oh my God,
they'd be at the top of the group. Right.
Wu-Tang is one.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's true. Right? We could argue that maybe that's the next episode. But for now, like Eminem is that dude. And then I know people gonna hate on me so bad. So bad. And again, this is not in order. I'm just naming top 5. And I'm prepared for the hate. You can bring it. I got convinced of this by some other people. And I'm sticking to it. Who makes my top 5, if we include like longevity and cultural influence, is Drake. I knew you were gonna do that, but this is Salim has literally died on episode 2 of Saliggy The Doc, where the doc reveals that Drake is in his top 5. You cannot argue with the numbers, right? Like that's part one of top selling. Him and Eminem are 1 and 2 in terms of top selling. I know pop appeal isn't what we're talking about. Lyrically, he's solid. He has changed the game completely. He has essentially created hip hop into a new genre of music.
It's rap pop. He's rap pop.
And whether you want that or not, it is. And he's responsible for it. So to say that, and like, all this is to say, the dude is super talented. Like, let's not front like the dude is not super talented, right? Absolutely. So you add the talent, add the longevity, the sales, the influence on the game. You think about a guy like, Rick Ross. Rick Ross, Young Money, Cash Money, they wouldn't be the same without Drake. Like like DJ Khaled, Drake makes him every summer with a hot single. Like he's fathered the game for the last 5 to 10 years in some ways.
I don't say he fathered anything. He's a terrible father. He let that son right. All right, look. let me say something about 3 of the people you picked out.
Yeah, go ahead, please. Yeah,
It's interesting. Like, so I don't disrespect Pac's influence in rap culture, in the game, at all. And I think for real, I'm not a Pac guy, but Pac got some bangers that I still fuck with today. Like Machiavelli, for real, like To Live and Die in LA is one of my favorites. It's one of my favorite
that
rap.
whole album is sick, yeah.
It's a dope album. And then even the album, the one with Tears and Temptation. I can't think of the name of the album right now.
Me Against the World.
Me Against the World. Me Against the World. He's the track he did called Old School on there. I thought it was dope. My biggest problem with Pac was, it's like, nigga, where are you from and who you rep? Like, are you from Oakland? Are you from?
He talks about it though. Yeah.
Are you from New York? You schizophrenic. Are you happy about Brenda? Or are you hitting them up, nigga? Like, who are you?
That's what I love about him.
That was the.
Don't put me in a box.
The nigga was crazy. The nigga was wild.
Oh, he might have had some mental health issues, but most most of us do. Right? Most black, right?
All MCs do too.
Right. Exactly. You got to be a little crazy to be like, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna recite some poems over a beat and make $1 million. Right? Who does that? Like.
Okay, so that's my thing on Pac.
Okay. Right. But that's,
okay.
Those reasons you mentioned are exactly why he's on my list. That's why I love him.
The 2 that I'm gonna have like nightmares about that are Eminem and Drake. and my thing about Eminem is this: Eminem lyrically is a fucking monster. When he is challenged on some shit, like when they said
he needs it, right? Yeah, he's a battle rapper.
Like,
yeah.
Oh, Eminem killed Jigga on his shit. Like, right. Oh my God, like. And everybody was like, yo, is Eminem going to graduate towards this? Because all Eminem would rap about would be Munchausen syndrome, Kim, drugs.
That was his life. He's rapping about his life.
That ain't me. I'm not a white dude from 8 Mile that got black friends. That ain't me.
I understand that.
I remember one white kid at University of Maryland, when I was working there, had told me, this is like 2005, he said Eminem's the greatest rapper of all time. I said, get the fuck out of my area. Go study. Like, shut the fuck up. You're a white boy from Florida. You do high jump. I'm glad you can high jump, but shut the fuck up about music. Go.
Right.
Go.
Don't tell me about him.
Don't tell me about it. I know he's your superhero in rap. Just shut the fuck up. So I think Eminem, what I like about Eminem is when he's challenged to get on a track with other superior MCs, he shines. But Eminem on an album, I bought 3 or 4 of his first albums, and I was like, yo, I'm good on this cat. I'm good on this cat because none of his shit on the albums moved me. I'm good. I think the only one I really liked might have been the Marshall Mathers LP. I think that's the only one that I like, but the other ones like Encore and Slim Shady.
I like several of his albums. I like Slim Shady. I like Marshall Mathers. I like Encore. Yeah,
I'm good. I'm good on Eminem. So that was a shocker. But I think lyrically, he is an amazing MC. But I don't even know what his longevity is or whatever. I don't know. I don't know.
Dude, it's been decades. He's literally the greatest selling hip hop artist of all time. So like that speaks to. Yes, literally. Yeah. Literally, he has sold 152 million units.
Well, look, I don't want to make it a race thing because...
No, I'm sorry. That's Drake, 227 million units. So you're right. Like, there is race in this, right? Like, there's, I study race. Race is in everything.
White is right. So Eminem is going to sell.
It gives him an advantage. He's going to sell more records. So you're right. That skews the numbers on sales. But he has been active producing music in the industry since he was 20 years old, 1992, even before that. Yeah.
Shade 4-5. Yeah, he's done, and Dre is the reason for that. Let's give Dre his props. He ain't no
Well, yeah,
MC.
shout out to Dre.
Yeah,
Yeah, for half the industry,
yeah.
basically.
Dre's a
Yeah,
visionary in this rap game. He
yeah,
ain't no good rapper.
absolutely.
He need niggas to ghostwrite for him, but he's solid. But
Right.
okay, the last one, Drake. Okay, here's my thing with that motherfucker. The shit with Drake that pisses me off is I know Drake can kill.
Right. He chooses
He
not
can
to.
do
Right.
right and kill everything. I
Yeah.
know he can do it.
Right.
He just chooses not to. He wants to be
Yeah.
the key sweat of this thing. I don't want to
Right.
hear no nigga on no answer machine doing that Marvin's Room shit. He pissed me off with that Take Care album. I promise, man.
I don't like that album.
No, it wasn't.
I said I don't like it. Like
Oh, you know, I thought you said it was a good album.
Yeah, no, I don't like that album.
He got Lord Knows on there with Rick Ross, where he actually raps and kills in that shit. I love that track. I hate that album.
I'm not a big fan of that album either.
So when Drake first came out with the So Far Gone and the EP and then his first album, Thank Me Later, I thought that was the beginnings of like, oh, that's that next dude.
Yeah,
then he
greatness.
Sing songy and shit. And nigga got emotional in his feelings. He's LL on steroids. He be rapping to the chicks and shit.
Yes, and don't hate on him for like, appealing to a female audience, number one. Number two, like in the midst of all that appealing to a female audience, he murdered Meek Mill. Destroyed. Meek Mill's not a great rapper, but Meek Mill is known as like a real in hip hop, right? Like and with Back to Back, for example, like not just I don't know how to better say it, like but like Back to Back is the thing I think that sold me on Drake, where I started to pay attention more after I had kind of been like, yeah. But when he came out with Back to Back, I was like, oh my goodness. Yeah. It's like Back to Back. So who didn't get the message. Yeah, I'm on the cover of Lethal Weapon, Back to Back like Jordan 96, 97. Whoa, very important, very pretentious. When I look back, I might be mad that I gave you this attention. And then when he went for him and Nicki, it was like, shout out to the women, boss women, wife and niggas. Like, I was like, oh my goodness. Like, this is, yeah. Like, think about it. Like, since the digital age, like, since you had to, like, or even before, because you used to have to buy CDs and records, right?
Right.
When have you put on a diss track? You could argue, like, Ether.
No
right?
Vaseline.
You could argue, no Vaseline. You could argue that. But in the modern era, if you will,
okay,
no one else is like murdered an MC over a track like Drake has.
You know what my issue with this nigga is?
You're like, I'm not gonna argue that point. Go ahead.
I know he could do so much more as a rapper,
right?
From like the classical
I understand.
rapper perspective. The Scorpion album, he was getting back to that joint. Like I was like, okay.
Yeah,
I'm always like, I'm tricked into listening to Drake because of his relevance. I have to, just to stay current. I'm 44.
Right, exactly.
There's gonna be a point where I can't be the 50-year-old nigga listening to rap no more. So Drake is my inlet to staying relevant in this shit. And ooh, come on, cuz like.
But see what that says about him. See what that, and then we can't argue Drake the rest of the day. But the fact that for us 45-year-old somethings, right, and for my 26-year-old daughter, right, and for my 12-year-old nephew, I'm just making these people up, right? But it's still relevant. Like everyone's listening to that. Like he can capture every one of those demographics in one way or another. And I could play Back to Back, and then on the next song I could play Coming Home, and it'd be like something completely different. Just hold on, I'm coming home. That's my joint. But man, like just respect. I'll leave it there. Like the thing that frustrates you about him, I respect about him.
Okay. Yeah, and you are much more. You're more accepting of a lot of things than I am, so I can understand. I'm mad he's your. Is he your one? Like Drake is your number one?
No, that's what Jay-Z's my number one.
Well, okay, Jay-Z's your one, but
in my heart, right? I'm still a East Coast. I'm from New Jersey, but New York boom bap hip hop guy. Like that's in my heart. But you know, my brain is like Drake is nice.
And before we end this, I'm speaking of boom bap. I don't want us to not mention greats like KRS-One.
MC
Light. Because I know we talked about other MCs before. You know, KRS-One.
MC Shan. Take it back to the beginning.
Shan, cool.
MC Shan. Cool D. Like all let's take what? Curtis Blow. I'm saying let's take it back to the beginning, man. Like so this is how we can end like a shout out to the legends. You know what I'm saying? Like you know, people will be like Curtis Blow is a little bit cartoonish right now, but when he came out, it was like, dang, like he was the man, like on some other stuff.
The world. Like, you know, it's all good.
Yes. Yeah, Grandmaster Flash, Cool Herc. Let's shout out to the originators. And we love you. We love you, originators. We love you, hip hop. We love you, MCs. Thank you for representing us, hip hop. We love you.
Indeed. And that's what we got to do, groups, because there's some MCs and groups that we need to bring up. So for sure. And last night's verses, I don't know if you saw that with Ghostface.
I'll have to catch up on it. Yeah.
Hey, watch that shit, because you're going to ask a lot of questions like, what the fuck was Raekwon wearing? And where in the hell did Ghost get that ostrich mink? Those are the two immediately. But it was cool. It took me back. Like it was really a concert. It wasn't a verses. Raekwon was just drunk and Ghost was just Ghost. But
right.
You want to entertain?
I'll check it out. We'll talk about that next time. We got to talk about best hip hop groups next time. So much more to talk about. So much more life. Drake, we love you, everybody. Saliggy The Doc. Saliggy does not love everybody. I love you, everybody. Saliggy The Doc, episode 2, putting it in the can. Like it, share it, comment below. Let us know who your top 5 is. And for sure, subscribe to this YouTube channel, y'all, because we need to monetize this, number 1. But number 2, you got to know when the new stuff drops. So, peace.